Welcome to the Knowledge Base Ninjas podcast, where Gauri Ramkumar of Document 360 finds the best SaaS self-service knowledge bases in the world and then interviews their creators. Let's get started with today's episode.
Good day, everyone. Our guest today is Preeti Savanur, Principal Technical Writer at OpenText. Welcome, Preeti, to the Knowledge Base Ninjas podcast. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Gauri, and thank you so much for inviting me here. It's my pleasure to be here.
Fantastic, Preeti. So I have looked a lot on your LinkedIn profile. So I've just introduced a very little about yourself. So please begin to introduce a little bit more about yourself. How did you originally get into documentation?
Sure. So I'm from Bangalore, and I pretty much spent most of my years learning and education and everything in Bangalore. So I started my career as a technical writer soon after my engineering. So I joined the industry as an intern with IT Technologies, and that was the place where I actually, was introduced to what technical writing is and what are the standards and industry practices, and that was amazing actually to understand that there is a field like technical writing, and you could do a lot of things, and affect the customer experience with the way you write content. So that was my start of the technical writing journey. And after that, I think I started working with a startup as a writer. So pretty much I was only writer in that company, and kind of moved roles, and churned out content for all types of content for pre-sales team, for the usability kind of heuristics, then coming up with various user documentation, training manuals, pretty much every kind of content that I have worked so far. I think I've worked in that company. So that was a very enriching experience for me, and that gave me a kind of feel as to how powerful content can be in the entire product journey of the customer. So after that, I worked for a couple of other companies where I did documentation, user documentation basically. But I think where things started to change for me was when I joined Citrix and was introduced to XML-based authoring tools and concepts like content reuse, data, and this actually helped me. Um, think about content from a very different perspective, how content development works and how content is consumed by customers. So it gave a more of a it gave a better approach to the way I was perceiving content. And currently I'm working with OpenText, and I do work as a tech writer and churn out various types of content, and mostly to do with user content. So this has been my technical writer journey so far. And during this entire journey, I have worn various hats. I've changed roles. I've worked in UX team. I've worked as a user researcher, and probably all the kind of places and roles where content plays a role. So I have had a opportunity to work in those places.
Fantastic. So that's an amazing journey, Preeti. So how long are we talking this whole thing? How many years in the sense have you been into documentation?
I think about 14 plus years of content writing experience.
Wow.
And I think 3 to 4 years of documentation management, team management, and people management kind of experience.
Super. So we will try to condense your 18 plus years of experience in this next 20 minutes. So,
Okay.
in terms of documentation process, what is that you follow in OpenText, and who do you normally get involved in terms of teams?
Okay. At OpenText, we have a globally spread out team. So each site has different set of products that we work on. So here in India, we have Hyderabad based writers and Bangalore. So at Bangalore, we have about 10 writers in the team, and pretty much each of the writer owns one product, one or two products, and they're responsible for complete ownership, starting from scoping the effort, content strategy, and project planning for that, and entire maintenance of that product. And during the entire course, I think we interact with various cross-functional teams. So the product manager, the program manager, the dev team, the QA team, and UX folks. So um, interacting with various stakeholders, trying to get inputs right from the stage where the product features are being discussed. So we follow agile process here. So it's a 2-week sprint that we follow. So during the 2-week sprint, we start off, taking up the pieces that the dev team has already started some user stories, and they have started developing. So we try to see if there are any doc impacts for the features that they are working on a particular sprint, in that particular sprint, and then analyze and do the content strategy for that, where we kind of interact with the PM and our manager and peer, and see as to what kind of content would be best. So if it's a straightforward user content, I think that wouldn't take much of interaction. But then, let's say, for example, we know that we could churn out videos for certain features, or we could churn out some, blogs or articles, which would be something apart from what we would be doing, documenting in user guide. Then we use this stage where the developers are discussing about the features to plan our strategy for that feature. So it's a very kind of process where for each of the features we go through this, then we come up with the write-up, and it goes through all the review cycles, the technical review for accuracy, then the peer review, and the various checks based on the checklists and all. And we have that piece ready so that it can be plugged in probably at the end of the entire release cycle, and try to churn out the documents well in advance, and come up with good quality documentation. So this is pretty much what we follow here.
Mm-hmm. Super. So, in this long process, what are the important factors you consider when creating documentation?
I think the most important thing we focus on is when a particular feature is being developed, how would a user perceive that? like what kind of content should be presented to him to make it easier for him to digest the feature, and then have a good experience for that particular feature that is developed. So a lot of thought goes into that, and in the planning as to what is the best time to pick it up, so that all the reviews and the content quality is high. So I think that would be something we focus on for all the features that we write.
Fantastic. Can you share some examples from your work on different content forms?
Yeah, I think if I have to maybe go back from all the 10 to 10 plus years that I have been working. So I have worked on videos, and then we've churned out many FAQs, probably even links within the documents which take you to a different blog or an article. So, and apart from that, I think one of the previous companies where I worked, we were working for oil and gas company, and we were getting a lot of customer calls for one particular uh, option that was mostly wrongly selected by the users. So when we ideated on that, we observed how they would approach that, and probably putting a text on the UI where you're warning the user that selecting this is going to, enable or disable this feature. So putting the content right where it is useful. So these are the different things that types of contents that we have churned out, and with various companies that I have worked.
Mm-hmm. Super.
Mhm.
So, as an extension to that, can you
Mhm.
share any tips for listeners that may
Mhm.
design a chatbot experience for their users?
Yeah, now I think having just a visual interface is going kind of out of date, and we are now entering into a space where we are trying to have a conversational UI kind of a concept. So this, either can be voice assisted assistants that we have, or the kind of chatbots which are human assisted chatbots that we generally see. So if having any of these, your product supports having any of these, it would be a great way of having content experience for the user. So if you want me to talk a little bit about chatbots, I would say chatbots are something that would help the user, interact with your interface, and get what he actually, the response that he requires in a conversational style. So this is picking up traction now, and based on what I have worked so far, I think there are two types, categories that we can categorize this chatbots into. So one would be very specific set of rules that are defined, and which respond to certain specific commands. And like, say, a user is kind of asking about a particular feature, like how would you say configure this particular feature. So this is very well defined kind of a question that the user is asking, and the chatbot would help you, map the question to a particular response that is already predefined. So there are frameworks which help you do this. So that would put your user experience to the next level, where the user kind of gets the information where exactly he wants it and the time where he needs that information. So the other type of chatbot that I was telling is about something which is coupled with AI. So they're usually called the AI powered chatbots, and these kind of are self-learning, so machine learning bots, which is like over the period of time, they see what the user conversations are, learn from that, and the next time the responses that are given are much better. So in documentation, I think what could be used to a very large extent is we could use chatbots which have entities defined and intents defined. So let me get a little into the basic model of a bot, where I would say if there is a framework, usually any of the frameworks that are available work on entities, intents, and responses. So entities is something that the user is talking about. Like, let's say a user wants to has a question like, show me what is there in yesterday's financial news. So that would be yesterday's financial news would be your entity, and the intent would be show me the news. So as this one, you could define a response to this by predefined responses can be defined and can be picked from the repository uh, based on what is the intent and the context. So if I have to give you um, example very specific to documentation, let's say we have a chatbot defined for your product, and I'm a user, and I am wanting to see certain system requirements that I need to define, and I don't know where exactly I have this in the user guide, which is already install guide or user guide, where it is bundled and I can go and search. So this I could just let's say if it is something a type enabled bot, I would just say give me the system requirements needed at this point. So the intent that I would have defined in my chat bot framework would be system requirements. Probably when the bot picks up system requirements, I have already defined entities saying install guide and user guide. So the mapping is done between the two. And as a response, let's say user gets a response saying, here you are. So this is the installation guide, and this is where exactly you can go and find the information on that. So what you're basically doing is the content that you already have in your HTML from your repository in your HTML help, and so that can be tagged, or probably the videos that you have created for your product that can be used as a link to direct your user to that place. So this increases your um, content experience for your user.
Uh-huh. Super. So with all these new technology and innovation, so have you seen any kind of reduction in workload since introducing these different information experiences?
Well, I would say we are if we are reusing the content that we have already developed, so we are not reinventing the wheel here, right? So we are trying to reuse whatever content that we have developed. There may be some tweaks that we would be doing, but then that would increase the experience by many folds. the information experience by many folds. So I would say the most important thing for a information experience for the product journey to be um, more um user friendly. So that point would be addressed with minimal work.
Okay.
So does that answer what you were looking for?
Yeah, I mean, kind
Okay.
of. Do you measure that reduction in workload? Like, I mean, I know this is one question that a lot of my guests answer
Mhm.
differently. Like most of them, they say, okay, when the reduction and the customer support.
Yes, I
Uh,
think yes, I was heading to the same thing. Probably we wouldn't want to, the metrics that you use for measurement would rather be customer experience, and then probably the reduction in support calls, and the feel good factor about your product, rather than just measuring the number of hours that or the effort that writing team or the product management team would put in.
Yeah, true. So the documentation with OpenText, is it an internal documentation or is it, sorry, something that's available externally?
No, that's all the open text documentation is access based. So mostly I wouldn't call that as customer facing per se, like something that would show up on search engines and such. But if you have access to the product, then you have a, large repository of documentation that you can use.
Fantastic. So you're not generating any organic search traffic through your documentation or knowledge base.
I doubt if we are doing that, but then we still, for the internal customers, I mean, the customers who have access, yes, we do ensure that we can have some statistics there, and we can some analytics there, because most of the content we churn out, we do have metadata defined, and then the tags and all. So using that, we could come up with various analytics.
Super, super. So I think, Preeti, with that, we've done with the first half of our conversation. Anything
Sure.
you'd like to add before we move on to the rapid fire round?
Well, I think what I would say is, um, as a writer, we have a lot of roles that we can play, and we can engage with various teams in probably doing a lot of usability testing, and then trying to see, because we are end user advocates. So we should leverage that strength and help build better product experience.
Super, super. So let me know a little bit more about yourself. So who have you learned the most about documentation from in your career?
I think I would say I've learned from, I've been lucky to have a couple of mentors throughout my journey. And one of them is my first manager at I2. I think she was the person instrumental in um, making me kind of very passionate about content, and how it is developed, how it is consumed, and being aware of the various processes that kind of we follow, and what helps make a very good you know uh, writer. So it's my manager was Sai Kavita. So she I think mentored me in the first level, and I still kind of carry everything that she's taught over the years. Apart from that, I've been lucky to have. Sorry.
I said thank you to Sai Kavita.
Yes, definitely. And apart from that, during my 5+ years working with the startup that I worked and the leadership team there. I think I see them as somebody who always pushed me out of my comfort zone and learn more things than I actually would have settled for. So that attitude of customer centric kind of approach, where I'm always thinking about product experience and how as a writer I can make sure that the experience is better. So I have had a couple of mentors in that office too, so I'm thankful to them too.
Fantastic. So in terms of documentation related resource, can you share few titles of resources that you have recently consumed?
I think I pretty much read all the blogs that show up, and one of my couple of them which I kind of don't miss are boxes and arrows. So they have very good write-ups on content strategy and other related uh, topics. And they kind of provide you the uh, uh, where you can think about various different aspects. So that's one thing I follow regularly. And of course, for UX and usability related content, I see Neil and Norman group. So that's been something I've been following for some time now.
Fantastic. So I think we are almost there. Bear with me for a couple more minutes. So what is that
Yeah.
one piece of documentation related advice you would give to your 20-year-old self?
um, well, if you need to, not just in writing, in whatever aspect, you need to learn to um, engage um, uh, other people and carry them along with your journey, and then help them, so that you are successful. So what I would say is various teams that you interact with, the various people that you interact with, always be on a lookout for how you can contribute to what they are doing. And in turn, they will ensure that you are kind of helped in whatever you're doing. So to give you an example, probably if you just go to a QA person who is testing, or probably a developer, you just walk, and then you want something to do with the inputs for your features, so you just walk to him and casually try to see what he's doing, and then probably if you know that you can probably add a text there, or edit it right there, saying well, I think this would make better. So you're engaging with him and helping him with what he's doing, and in turn, when you go back to him and say that today I need to get these inputs, definitely you will be helped. So that people engagement is what takes you to the kind of uh, successful journey as a writer.
Okay, cool. So I think with that, we are done with this podcast experience. So anything else to just add as a last points to our listeners?
Oh, well, I think I'm very happy to share this platform. And, thanks to you guys who are passionately, giving this platform for various people. And of course, many of writers, young writers who are aspiring writers would definitely benefit from the kind of work you guys are doing. And also helps writers learn, like me, learn a lot from other people sharing their journeys. So that's a wonderful initiative.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Your guests as well, once again, and to you, Preeti, for sharing your 18 plus years of experience in this short period of time. But it's
Thanks,
amazing,
Gauri.
and continue to do what you're doing right now. And once again, stay safe and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Knowledge Base Ninjas podcast. Please head to iTunes, rate, and provide honest feedback on the podcast. See you next week.